Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Parallel League podcast. I'm your host, Alliestrasza, joined by my incredible co-host, Mookah, and our guest today is the incredible Manos, who just won the second ever Parallel League Major. So we're going to grill into him, ask him some questions about his experience and what it's like to win a major tournament like that. But before we get into it, I just want to give you some updates. The final qualifier is December 21st and 22nd, so don't miss that. The final minor is December 26th and 29th. And the third majors is in January. And remember, guys, that you can always go to parallelleague.game for the full schedule on the website. Also know that the December ranked ladder and IGTs, this is the last chance to earn the points for the league. There's going to be no qualifier event next month, but you're still earning for this month in December. And it was also announced during the major that the top 16 from the 32 knockout stage are going to Vegas when it was previously top 8. So that's really exciting that we're going to get more players actually out in Vegas competing. But Manos, welcome to the Parallel League podcast. We're super excited to have you on.
Yeah, I was wondering when I was going to get the invite. So if anyone's wondering, you just got to win a major, and
that's it. You just got to easy peasy win a major. My first question for you is, fresh off the win, what feels the best here? The $20,000, the guaranteed spot at that top 32 knockout stage for Worlds, or just the general like acclaim of a massive win? Which one feels the best?
I think I was actually already a lock just from leaderboard points. So it's definitely not that one.
Okay.
Although it feels nice to, I think someone else gets a slot now, right? Because I'm one of the three. Yeah. So somebody, you're welcome to somebody. $20,000 absolutely feels nice, but no, it's the acclaim, doing it for the fans. It's wild. Ever since Manila, that's when it really hit me, because I think you guys have said on previous episodes, there's the Manos banner. I had Kalos come up and shake my hand as I'm like sitting there ready to play.
Wow.
It hits you. So it was nice to, I would have liked to win Manila there for them. Not that fifth is bad by any means, but yeah, it was nice to immediately take one home after.
Is this your first time playing, I guess, like at this level in a card game before? Or at esports?
Certainly like taking it seriously and, on a team with yourself, having that support group and like really trying. Played card games my whole life, from buying Yu-Gi-Oh packs and not knowing the rules, and what's called like kitchen table magic is what they did, just playing casually. And then somewhere in high school, I became friends with people who were like Pro Tour adjacent. That's the Magic the Gathering pro scene, or at the time, changes all the time. I'm not sure what they're calling it now or doing now. But I never took it seriously. I just like there would be PTQs, Pro Tour qualifiers, which are basically like 100 to 200 person open tournaments, and they dragged me along to those. Never played the format. They'd hand me a deck and I'd play, and did well, top 8 at a couple. Nice. But yeah, no, this is my first like really trying competitively. But always been a grinder.
How did you find Parallel then?
So crypto, I got into crypto 2017, so it was adjacent there, and then like I said, card games my whole life. So I think I just saw on Twitter actually, Ansem or at Black Noise, whatever it is. He had some tweet probably about Parallel. Well, actually, yeah. So that's how I finally got the invite. There's one before that. So I think like Pack Drop 2 or something I saw Ansem tweet about, and I missed it. Like I set an alarm for the morning, but
oh no,
didn't wake up in time, something like that. So then I just wrote it off completely. Said, whatever. Never gonna work. So hard to make a good TCG. Like, doesn't matter. Put it out of my mind until closed beta came around, like last summer, I think, roughly. Yeah, I think I got in like at the end of August 2023. Same thing, another Ansem tweet, something about Parallel, and Koji was there in the comments saying, all followers of Ansem get, hit me up and I'll give you access to the closed beta. So then from there, it's just, it's all I've done for the past year. But yeah, so crypto adjacent and TCG adjacent, match made in heaven, both in my wheelhouse.
When you started playing, Did you ever expect that you'd be taking it so seriously that you're like kind of like competing and talking shop with like TCG players that have like crazy accolades, right? Like some of the top players in like Hearthstone
Mhm.
or Magic the Gathering. Like you're on a team with like Jason, right? Who's like won two Magic Grand
Mhm.
Prix, and then you talk with like Lambie all the time, who's like
Yeah.
had such great success in other games. So
Lambie,
did you
Yarla
think
actually
that
knew.
you'd be? Yeah,
I knew.
exactly.
Yeah.
Did you think you'd be taken so
No,
seriously?
absolutely not. Yeah. It's happened so quick too. I don't think I had any thought in my mind of like how big it was going to get, how quickly, and yeah, certainly not the name recognition of it. It's wild, yeah. And now, I talk to these guys in Discord all the time. It's wild.
The community has really taken to you, and I think it's well, obviously stash power. They love the
Mhm.
stash. There's something about it. But I think it's just a matter of respect. Like you grind the game so much, you're very integrated into the community, and so I have to ask, like, how do you play so many games? Like, or just what's the schedule? And
Yeah, I
you
don't
know,
do as many as I used to, but
okay,
yeah, when
yeah,
I started, uh, well, yeah, I mean, that's why there was a couple months ago when Koji did the first place gets 5 grand.
mm-hmm.
That was a good like send off to that era of Manos. Not that I'm still there, I'm still grinding, but do it one more time, grind for first, because yeah, I mean, you just can't do it anymore. It's so time, especially if somebody like Lambie is out there
It's
competing
true.
with you.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
Um,
was a crazy era. I remember, at least within like the Exile Discord, like daily like Manos cheering was like a thing. Like you would just be like check in on Manos, like how is he doing? He's like I'm currently this much above Lambie. I have to play like 8 more hours
mhm.
because he's also playing, and I'm
Yeah,
keeping they're keeping track of MMR, like how fast each people are gaining it,
that's how I
and it
do
was
it. In
like
between every game, you just look at the leaderboard. If Lambie's number is still moving, that means I got to keep clicking.
oh my gosh. And massive respect. Like I said, it's not easy to grind that much, but clearly, if you're enjoying the game, it makes it a lot better. So that's really great. I want to hear a little bit more about your decision to go to exile too. Like, when did that start? And obviously, Mooka, you guys
Mhm.
can chat about it, but yeah, I'm curious.
just say it's because of me, but no, I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
it actually is because you always try to get me to go to those in houses, and I
Hmm.
was busy. I was buying this house at the time, moving from where I was, so it never worked out. So that and Bounty just happened to reach out to me first. That's
Wow.
really all out of all the big
Yeah.
bonds.
The Exile founders are really quick. Like even when I became an Exile member is before Bonds even like really took shape, and I had come into the parallel scene. I didn't know anybody. This was like during alpha. Nobody knew who I was. I didn't know anybody. I was like I have no cards. And then I read about Bonds and I was like I can get some I can scam some people into like lending me some cards if I look like I know what I'm doing.
Mhm.
So Kalos used to post some deck lists, and then I would take those deck lists, make my own versions, and post them on Twitter or X. And yeah, the Exile guys saw that and they were like, "Hey, you look like you know what you're doing. You want to like play with us?" And that's kind of how I joined them. And then from there, like I forgot how I got into the coach role, but I think I was like making content. Started slowly making content. I got into coach role at that time. I was also doing in-houses. This is like really, I don't even know if we can say this is parallel lore, but this is like during alpha days.
Okay, so
Like there's very few people streaming the game at all. So I would go on stream, I'd get like 5 or 6 of the best players at the time. Manos was a player that always evaded me because he was busy moving. He always would be like, I'm still moving. I got to paint the house now. And I'm like, this bastard keeps like, dodging me. But I would get some of the best players at the time. This is even before so many players came into the scene, like Lambie, Fino, Jarla, like
Mhm.
before any of those guys were in. And we would just like get in a Discord call. I'd stream their matches, both hands, like the way we still do it now. And I would just commentate over them. And like that was like I think a lot of like the alpha players, that's how they got to know me and how like the community started. Like it was one element of it. And then yeah, Manos came along around that time too and was like watching and playing a bunch.
Um, yeah, I mean, I I've been, around for a little while now, but that you guys are some real OGs, and so seeing this unfold before your eyes, like Manila, being in person, seeing people cheer, like it's got to feel pretty insane, just like seeing the culmination of all of this. And, I guess then, my next question is like Worlds, like how excited are you? Like, tell me about your thought process, like going into, preparing for, the knockout stage.
Yeah, I mean, it's just going to be a big grind month, I think. I'm not sure exactly what the setup is, uh, but it's like the season ends soon. The last major is what, halfway through January or something like that. And then I think early February is the round of 16. And then do we have a month off till Worlds, till the actual Vegas?
Uh, that sounds about right. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
round robin for the knockout stage.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's just going to be a lot of prep. It's going to be sitting on Discord with the team and friends every day, grinding away, seeing what we can break.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the major that just took place over the weekend. Like, what was your prep going into that one? And yeah, just tell us a little bit about it.
Well, we didn't really have any time to prep, right? Because
True.
a pretty big patch came out Thursday morning, and then we had to play Saturday morning. So there props to Shogo actually. He had the lineup. He had the most interesting lineup in the top
Mhm.
eight, and probably the lineup like I wanted. I really wanted to bring
Yeah.
a rack. Anyone
Manos
who
wanted
knows
to.
me,
He has a good list. He has a good list tucked away that
yeah. And
didn't get to see any light. Different than Shogo's a bit.
so going back to what I appreciate most about winning the major is actually that. So like I was already guaranteed, but now there's just like I've won. I've hit my at least minimum goal.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna go on ladder and not care about points. I'm gonna make the vandalizer deck work. I'm gonna make a rack
Yes.
work.
Yeah, I was gonna
We're
ask
gonna
about
do it.
that.
Send
We're
me
just
the
gonna,
vandalizer list when you got it
Absolutely, yeah,
cracked
I'm gonna need a
because
little bit of time, but I will.
yeah.
yeah. No,
Very nice.
in terms of like tournament preparation, I guess I can touch a little bit too as like a coach role. Um, I want to say like these patches before a tournament, from a caster perspective, I love. As a coach, I absolutely hate because like it's like 2 days, like you're like talking on paper a bunch of stuff, and then
Mhm.
you have 2 days to actually try it, and you even then like we don't do this full time, so it's hard to sometimes you can't get the hours as many hours as you want in. So I think for myself personally, I was only there for part of Thursday to help Manos and then Friday, but I missed a huge chunk of Thursday. Luckily, he had some other people to prepare with and talk shop with. But it's super tough, right? I mean, Manos, I'm sure you can. This is the second time you had to do it. I'm sure it's not. It wasn't fun both times. We made the best of it, but yeah,
Mhm. Yeah, I think we landed on the best standard lineup at least, and I mean clearly it worked.
no,
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Seems
I feel
like
like
the safe play was probably the smart play because there just wasn't enough time to like
right.
really get into the
yeah,
nitty gritty. So yeah, mad
Mhm.
props to Shogo for taking a risk
Mhm.
and like it almost worked.
yeah,
Oh, absolutely.
I
yeah.
I believe
I
I was
expected.
was
unfavored in that matchup. I got lucked out or whatever you want to call it because I managed to switcheroo what I chose to bring to each match and just like managed to uh, to get the Nehemiah through. That's what I needed to do.
Mhm.
yeah,
So the first game was Nehemiah versus Lemmy, which had a chance, but his Lemmy's like made to kill Earthen.
Yep. Yep.
And then Iraq is a free win. So if I went Nehemiah again and he brings Iraq, then I have to, beat Neve 3 times. Odds are stacked against you. But I just kept switching and happened to get Nehemiah into Neve, which is actually pretty, I think, kind of favorable these days, but at least like even, very close to even.
Ooh. Yeah, okay, let's focus on that for a second. You 'cause that was, a big topic point
Mhm.
of the tournament. We saw Nehemiah beat Neve multiple times. I think it might have only lost twice in the top 8. Mooka, you can correct me
yeah.
if I'm
I think
wrong.
so.
Yeah. So you are, like, officially on the record, okay, you're
Yeah.
saying that you think that Nehemiah is slightly favored.
I think it's slightly favored. Other good players, I'll name drop Lambie, I think said 55-45 or something for Neve
Okay.
still. I was thinking
Okay,
the
yeah,
other
yeah.
way, but it's
Mm,
very close. Uh, yeah, they certainly have. So I think you need the no snitchings. That's a big one because
Okay.
Shroud's going to have just all their early units, even Whispers. Like I don't think they're good anymore, but if they play them, um, snitchings are so good in Earthen because what you want to do is max tempo spam the board with units. So now you have free spells. So like you're doing something to also stop whatever they're doing, getting ahead on curve, like Earthen likes to do. So
Yeah.
snitchings are super important, protecting the O3 super important, and then Terra Mech, Terra Glida, Terra everything. Everything Terra is
It's
pretty
just
Yeah, the
insane.
all
Terra
the
engine is
Terras.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not many people caught it, but you also didn't run Terra at all.
Yep.
I
Yeah.
expected more of the other casters to catch notice, but no one
Uh,
was really saying it. So, Ali, how do you
yeah. I haven't.
feel? I don't know if you caught it, but no Terra.
I don't think I got that. You actually
Oh,
didn't. Oh man. I
Mhm.
mean, with the Terra Glider, you
Right.
were obviously running 3, it's a 50-50, and you can
Mhm.
do so much more with the turn rather than just casting it for the 7, right? Um, I think look, I'm inclined to trust you. Okay, you're far and away a better player here, so maybe that is the move. But I think I love Tara so much that I probably would want to keep her in there. But I also think it might depend if you're running like Altar of Gaia's, like that could be
yeah.
Yeah. Right. Which
consistent,
we went.
right? So I don't know if your list had Altar in it or not, but
It did
that might
not
be
know.
okay. Then I think that is relevant.
Certainly.
Um, Fascinating. Okay, and then another question that came up during that discussion was Mooka and I in the final. Like, I feel like we were really thinking a lot about like the queue order. Okay, so give
Mhm.
me your thought process on like how many steps in the mental gymnastics are you going through of like anticipating what they're gonna play, and then you go, "Oh, okay, well if they play this, then I'm gonna play this." Like, just walk
Mhm.
us through that process a little bit.
I'm flying by the seat of my pants. I come
Okay.
from Magic, so we had just had sideboards. I had single deck, and you have
Yeah.
like specific game plans. You know what you're going to do in between each game. So this whole conquest is new to me, or over the past
Interesting.
year. This might have been my first big best of 5, actually.
Wow.
I think
So I've
so.
done the best of 3s. Um, best of 5 actually seems, I could be wrong, but it seems like more forgiving actually for what you're picking. It seems to matter less than best of 3. I'm not sure exactly why. But yeah, this was actually super interesting. The final specifically, I heard people saying I had Marco versus Earthen,
Mm-hmm.
and they were all saying job sad, read you like a book. That's I wanted that matchup. I
Mm.
like Marco into Earthen. Triple no
Okay.
snitchings. It's
Yeah.
so consistent. Like it is. I don't know if it's favored, but like I'm happy to do that. And the one I specifically was trying to avoid, I remember, was I didn't want the Earthen mirror.
I
I was
see.
happy with Kathy into anything, but I really didn't want my Earthen into his Earthen. I forget his exact list, but there's something in there. Like he had relic removal, he had altars. Um,
He had 3 Aurora fungi.
right.
He had 1 altar, a relic
Mhm.
repurposing. I just took like a few notes, and then he had like an armored support vehicle. I think those are some of
Mhm.
the differences there, but yeah.
Yeah. So for whatever reason, I convinced myself that I didn't want that. That he'd probably win
Mhm.
the mirror. But I was fine with Earthen into anything. I was fine with Kathy into anything. Um, the second one I did mess up. I remember the second match I brought Neve, hoping he'd bring Earthen probably, but he brought the Kathy. That was rough, but I almost got the win. That was the exciting
Yeah.
game.
That was the
Went to
crazy game.
fatigue,
Yeah.
and he
He got the scanner
scanner
probe.
probed. I mean, he had like a couple options out of the ways there, but that was a nutty one.
That was
Yeah. That was,
insane. I was feeling bad because I thought for sure you had it. I was like, "Okay, he's got this in the
Me
bag."
too.
And then chat was like, "Allie, don't call it. Like you're jinxing it." Okay. And I'm just not gonna say anything. But no, I mean it was an
Mhm,
epic game to spectate.
mhm.
Truly. It was such an exciting final.
Yeah, Jobsat is freaking a beast, man. Like,
Yeah.
dude was pulling like he looked done so many times in certain games and just pulled it out like absolute crazy. I mean, he's got like that. He felt like he had that. I think we've only seen that kind of presence, I guess, on stream with like that Lambie. Like everyone jokes around like classic Lambie. It felt like Jobs had that same kind of presence that like
Mhm.
it odds look against him, plays to the out, gets the out, and then it
Cross
just like
Wong
looks
into
crazy.
Estelle's in his last
Yeah,
4 cards
yeah.
or whatever. Yeah, then into Scanner Pro. Yeah, no, he's a great player, and season 2 is going to be a lot tougher when all these really good players, just in general, uh, stop having to read cards and know what's going on. It's gonna be a much tougher go around.
Def definitely funny to see, especially when those Neve boards come down. I mean, I think
Mhm.
a lot of people still do this, but
Oh
you
yeah,
know, they're
yeah,
reading the cards
Yeah.
as they're coming out.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, mad props to Jobsad. Like he's fairly new, right? We acknowledge that I think he comes from
I think
Hearthstone.
he
He's
is
professional.
just is new.
He's just
Yeah, I've
like
seen him on
super new.
ladder for like a couple months, but certainly in like
Okay.
tournaments. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Season 2 is going to be a lot tougher. More and more pros are gonna come over. I know that there's, gonna be theoretically an increase in the prize pool announced for season 2, so we'll see.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about some of the cards that you may or may not have like considered like MVPs or really liked in this tournament.
Snitching.
Where
Snitching is the
snitching
card of
was
the
your
tournament.
okay,
Yep.
okay,
No
That-
snitching.
yeah.
Hmm.
Snitching for me,
Um,
rummaging was a really big one.
Mhm.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah.
a good one for sure.
I'm trying to think. Was there anything
Take it
else?
or leave it also, I mean,
Oh
super
yeah,
Hmm.
relevant.
Yeah,
yeah. How does that card feel for you now after the patch?
feels good. I mean, I think it's a good change, the right change, and then a cool change. Kind of like not a normal nerf,
Yeah,
but I think it did exactly what it needed to do. Decks that have a lot of draw power don't really care about the nerf, so they're still going to play 3. But decks that are trying to play their whole hand, like Sippy probably feels it the most. Um,
Mhm.
One, because you can't uh, you just run out of cards in your hand. On the play, you're gonna feel it. Kathy, I think you still play 3 just because you still have all the synergy with effects, and it's even more aggro than it wants to dump its hand whenever it has it. But it definitely came up, I think, in the I haven't watched all the games from the weekend yet, but I think definitely a couple people got screwed over by it, right? When they're
yeah,
Mhm.
top decking and you have a coin and a card you want to play.
yeah. Had to make banks they didn't want to make because you can't bank it. So
Mhm.
that was a good one. I like that. I think that change was a good one too. Like it
Absolutely, yeah.
was super creative.
Yeah, yeah, that's the word I was looking
Yeah.
for.
Yeah. I want to give a quick shout out to. I mean, this is like to another Exile member, Malston for Hold the Line. I think you
Absolutely.
made that card look super cool in
Yeah.
tournament.
Yeah,
And
thank you, Malston. Making me look
yeah,
good.
yeah. You didn't
He
have
had a
you
one
didn't
of copy,
one,
right?
yeah, one
Yeah.
of.
Just get it
Okay.
in your bank and then you can, there's so much reveal. And I don't think it came up, at least not in my
Yeah,
games. But the really interesting uses in the mirror, those, awful both players have a Terra mech with shield. You can target them with the hold the line.
Mm.
So
yeah.
you can pop the shield and then, use one of your 3 no snitchings or a bounce or something to break
Yeah.
through.
That's why Malston suggested it at first. He was like, "You always have the energy to make some use of it for the defender, but the more important thing is that you can break the shielded off Terramech.
Mhm.
You just keep it in your bank and you have an out. Like you need less cards in your hand to kind of make it happen. One is just sitting in your bank; it filled its purpose. Now you just need the answer card.
Yeah.
That might have been one of my favorite plays of the weekend was Nezi Hillis Diarty, one of his games.
Mhm.
I forget who he played. Jobsad, right? Did he play Jobsad?
Yes, he played
Yeah.
Job Sad. Yeah,
So it's somewhere in that series, and he had like the O2 and Nehemiah on board, and he hold the line, his O2 to give it defender, making it
Yeah,
to
I
attack to
remember.
get
yep,
to the shield.
Super
I
clean.
really liked that one. Yeah, such super clean. I forget how the rest of the turn went, but
Is that like
such the
a void keeper on the board maybe? The shroud?
something. Yeah, there's something he wanted to kill, so he got through the shield pod by
Yeah,
doing that, and then killed it with the Nehemiah.
that was
Yeah,
good, for
it
sure.
was really nice.
Man, I can you said earlier that you wanted to avoid the Earth and Mirror, maybe more because of your list, but I don't know about you guys,
For the
but going
viewers.
into an Earth and Mirror, I'm just, like, so intimidated, and
yeah.
I said this on stream that I think it might be the hardest mirror to play in the game, and I'm curious if you agree with that? It's certainly one of the most intimidating because when all those defenders come down, multiple titans, I'm just like, "Oh my
Mm-hmm.
god, how am I gonna get through this?"
I think it might be a shroud for me,
Okay.
but I actually do understand where you're coming from. I like the Earth and Mirror though, because Defender makes it similar to Magic, where I come from, where it's all
Mhm.
just combat math, because you can, just choose to block naturally in that. So yeah, it comes down to that, which is weird. It's the only time you really get it to the full extent of in parallel.
Can you
just
talk
board based. Yeah.
can you talk a little bit about Neve more too? Like I
Mhm.
think that was Mooka, I don't know how you phrased it, but it was just a kind of like a gamble the whole tournament, like we didn't
Shaky.
yeah,
I
shaky.
don't know if
And
that's the word I
so
use, but yeah.
something along those lines. And so yeah, talk just a little bit about your thoughts on the class and Neve in particular.
I think Neve's still fantastic. I don't know how the showing went only over the weekend. I only speak for myself, but I think a lot of it is user error. It's a complicated deck.
Mhm.
I think it's the deck. Like I was pretty happy with my play over the weekend, but certainly not on some of those Neve games. But
Yeah.
the deck
Okay.
itself is still really good.
Yeah.
Top two or something. Very bad matchups. I mean, that's just control, right? Dies to Kathy, but yeah, very powerful, very fun. It's also
I think
new.
it's
It plays a little bit differently. Like we played a lot of Neve. She kind of fell out of favor, but it was a little more just kind of curve out tempo based. You had the specters and stuff.
yeah.
Now
Um,
it's more of a control type deck. The way most people build it feels like you got the brand's expertises and more spells.
Yeah. That's true. It feels like it's also going through its own kind of evolution right now with the last patch, right? I think we forget
mhm.
to recognize that like the Engine Whisperer changes and the Lord Harf change, and then the even embedded agent kind of getting slightly changed. Maybe made people, change their list a bunch. Do you well, like I remember when we got on the call right before or the night before you were gonna lock in decks,
Mm.
and you were like, Mooka, I'm gonna take out one Singularity Steward, and we were all very tired. And I said, I think when I wake up, I'm going to regret not allowing, but like agreeing with this. But
Yeah.
for now, I will defer to you if you want to run it because the argument at the time that you presented it was, it's at best nowadays Stewart just gives you 3 health. It's not like doing the game plan that it once did,
Mhm.
and like being the powerhouse. Are you happy that you chose that route, like the 2 stewards and stuff?
I'll say I don't think I got punished for it, so
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm
Because I
not
felt like Stewart's did
unhappy.
do some more work than maybe
Mhm.
we were thinking in the beginning.
So they're probably you want three for like the Kathy matchup, but even
Mhm.
then they're a little more awkward than they used to be because Kathy's are all running three no snitching, so you can't really like
Yeah.
put it out there and know that you're gonna get a buffet. You have to like
Hmm.
hold it, and then they snitching it anyway, so it's a 2/4. Um, so yeah, it's just not as impactful, and you still probably want three for the Kathy matchup, but the other matchup, Earthen, it's never really at its best there. Um, Mirror, it's okay, but it's gonna get taken out.
Yeah,
So we can, yeah, just
it's pretty
try
fair.
to
Did
make
did
room
you
for
miss
other things.
Engine Whisperer?
Absolutely not. I never liked Engine Whisperer, but
My man, let's go.
yeah, absolutely not. Because I think the argument is like you play it and then you Brand's Expertise for one, right? But that's 2 mana. You can just cast Brand's
Yeah,
Expertise and not
true.
have the stupid card on your board. So no, yeah, I didn't miss it at all.
It was one of those things where it's just it was a fine inclusion, but after all of these new sets, like these staple cards that
Yeah.
were in these lists are just gonna get drowned out by more powerful stuff, right? So,
Oh yeah.
um, it makes a ton of sense. People are cutting it. I wanna put you on the spot a little bit.
Okay.
With we were just talking about Neve and there I mean, I wanna say, obviously, you won, you played fantastic the entire tournament,
Yeah.
but there were definitely some mistakes in that last series,
Mm.
particularly with the Neve game, so kinda, like, walk me through, your mindset and, like, if you did, like, recognize a mistake, like, how do you do were you
Oh yeah.
keeping your cool? Did it affect you? That type of stuff.
Yeah, so there were two big Neve games that I think I misplayed a lot. One was in the final, and then I think there was one in the Bull Bend series too. I don't remember that. We'll start with the final. Yeah, so I think it started turn four or something. I my board was spores. I had a Singularity Steward at
Mhm.
X1 and Baron 2/2 or something with Decay. So I played Honored Steward, targeting their shield pod, trying to buff up my guy to 2/2, so he lives and like I have some trading pressure. But I'm pretty sure. So I could be wrong. I think that was changed like just this patch. So going all the way back, even before, so like this most recent, not this patch, but right before it, people were able to target Life Siphon on the Shield Pod, and it would buff the Stewards. That was a new thing. But Honored Steward and Erasure have
Yeah, those were
always buffed
always.
Steward on Shield Pod.
Mm.
And then recently there was a bug where Life Siphon would also buff Stewards, and that was new. And they just fixed that. And in fixing that, I think they also fixed the Shield Pod just doesn't buff
Yeah.
on any banishes anymore. So yeah, that one caught me by surprise. And then I don't think I like felt it, but that game over the next 5 turns kind of spiraled, and on both sides too.
Yeah.
We were both just making. I think he terror glided for 2, which I assume was a
Yeah.
misclick.
Yeah. What was going
Uh,
on there? I
yeah.
really wanted to ask him. I'm
I
like,
I
what?
was trying to find out like what's he doing? Like was there
Yeah.
something? But I think it's got to be a misclick. And
Yeah.
then there was a bug. He no
No
snitching the Void
snitching.
Trapper, and it still gave me
Yeah.
the thing.
Yep.
It was just a
Okay, so
comedy of
that was a
errors.
bug, right? Like that
I think
shouldn't.
that was a
That,
bug.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
absolutely.
You ended up
Yeah,
banking the Terra Glider, I remember.
yeah, yeah. I just felt bad, you know. Really messed up. um, yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. You don't really, or I don't feel nervousness in the moment, but I think it's like there somewhere in the back of your mind, and um, yeah, it affects your play even if you're not feeling it. So
Sure.
after that game, just took 2 minutes and recalibrated and got there. But yeah, Neve's tough. The other one that game was I thought I had him because there was a PS8 in Prime for the Lost, but at the
Mm.
beginning of that turn, a cache had been played, and I forgot those are effects. So I just like immediately cast Triumph for the Lost, thinking I had got him, but it was an effect cache, not a PS8 to target his Terror Glider was shielded. So again, that whole game, comedy of errors. I don't know if it was each one was related to the previous one, but it was a funny one. But
Yeah.
these things happen, right? It's very difficult to play perfectly all the time. A huge thing that separates, good players from great players is consistency.
Mhm.
So
No, I mean, I totally agree. I think you played really well. But it's just interesting to hear, and it humanizes you a bit. A lot. If anyone's listening to this, and they want to be competitive, or even like some of the best players are still going to make mistakes in really high stakes games. So,
absolutely, yeah.
just interesting to hear that perspective.
Fatigue's very real. It's a
Yeah.
long couple weeks of long tournament days, long practice days. It's a real
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, we are human.
I'm sure people want to hear a little bit about like what it's like to practice with Manos. So maybe give them a quick rundown of how you get from point A to point B to like locking in decks and stuff like that.
I mean, you can attest the day before every tournament. You go, how you feeling? And I say, completely unprepared. I have no idea what I'm going to do. So I don't know how much insight there is to be had.
Yeah,
I just play. You just try things, see what works. Try your
yeah,
stupid ideas. See if they,
yeah,
might be something there. And then having a large support group. I guess we have a large team. Got plenty of friends. I bounce ideas off of in the community.
Prior to this call, I heard you guys bantering a little bit about the Gaffar's rage decision. Like
Mhm.
Mookah was against it, you were for it. Walk
yeah,
us through that.
Yeah, he's a formidable presence, sir. I've always hated that card. It's a necessary
Really?
evil.
Mm.
It's nice, but I like having energy. I don't like not having
Yeah.
all my energy the next turn. So I've always been like, I want to play 2, that kind of thing. But I mean,
Okay.
there's very good arguments to have 3. I'll say that much. But
yeah.
that aside, I mean, you weren't even. I don't know if you were against the Kafar's rage. Like it's
Well,
cool to have 1, but you also
yeah.
want 3 formidable. But I
Yeah, I
didn't.
went
Wasn't gonna.
from for some context, I'm not a formidable lover. I feel like I have to put that in there
Okay.
Right
because
on. Yeah.
I want to quickly unpack something that Mano said, like kind of really quickly. Try your stupid ideas. if you saw what Exile Prep is like in the beginning of starting Prep, it looks like a train wreck. We are trying the worst things ever.
Mhm.
I was trying to make shout out Bullbens for getting a one hasty mobilization to work, but I
Yeah.
swore by hasty mobilization so hard, and then I played Manos for like a day, and 4 of them missed out of like I think like 6 or 7 or something, and I was like, okay, we can't run this card. Like I can't. And I thought I had the perfect build. I'm like, you build around it. You guys are dumb. You just build around it. And I just kept saying that, and I couldn't like. And then when I had to show it, it just kept missing, and I was like, I cannot believe this. There was one time there's 30 cards in my deck, no supply cache, play hasty mobilization, it missed. And I was like, how does this miss? And
Mhm.
that's when I took it out. And then I started because I felt like Earthen was in a spot where Earthen is really good because it can start to expand board more. And that's why I really liked Hasty because it comboed
Mhm.
with the Terra Glider. So you'd have Terra Gliders to expand board, you had Hasties to expand board. You kind of like Earthen never got that kind of board expansion before. So I was like, that's what was the original idea. And it started failing. So then I was like, and at that point I was running 1-0 formidables. I didn't like Formidable. I think I remember talking to
Wow.
Malton and being like, I think Formidable sucks. I think Formidable is like the worst card
Mhm.
in this meta. And then when the Hasties came out, I started to notice, and I got this kind of from Lambie, is that like the Formidables give you a break. They either help you push to finish the game, but they
Mhm.
also give you like a break. Like there's usually some like key units that you expand it into that you don't want to be touched for a turn sometimes, and the Formidable saves that while giving you pressure. So then those units can do more stuff next turn. That and the obvious to just like end games. So then I started doing more formidables, and then at a certain point, we were trying rage, and every time I had a rage in testing, I'm like, if this is a formidable, I just win. But because it's a rage, I have to do like some fancy stuff to try and make it happen. So yeah, the last night Manos came and he had the rage, and I kept saying like, take out your Gafar's rage and put formidable, and he kept saying like, Mookah, this is a card that could do 30 damage. I have to play this card. Like I cannot not play this card.
Going back to the
And
stupid ideas thing,
yeah,
I tried at first to make a full Neve combo deck. The whole plan, playing 3 rages. All I'm trying to do is rage you. Didn't work, but you find something and you see the potential of rage. You play it as a one of just in a good Neve deck or Nehemiah deck,
Nehemiah.
anyways.
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
Mooka, I'll say it for you. Formidable would have done the same job in that
Way
spot.
faster. I kept saying, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. After that, you finished that whole match. I was like,
Mhm.
he's like, I don't know if I started or you started, but I was like, Formidable would have just won you that game if you just
But I
if you just
think
played
if
that
he had
for rage.
1 more HP, we would have needed rage.
And
Maybe,
He's
yeah,
getting
style,
that's
zap
fair.
guys.
12
Yeah,
and
that's fair.
style. And
Yeah,
Style.
yeah,
Come
style.
yeah,
on.
yeah. Style.
Look,
How
Yeah.
much life does style count for?
yeah, that's
Uh,
true.
that's my coach. That's how I am as a coach, by the way. Like it's very fun being a coach, but it's also sometimes you're like want to slam your head against the wall because you not because of comments like that, but there's certain rules that like your players like and follow and stuff. Like for
Yeah.
example, during Manila, when all of the Exile players like this is Jason competing, Malston, Manos, I think it was you and Sneakot.
Speak up.
And Sneakot was my favorite because he was the only one willing to play Naeus. Like everyone else was like, I think we came up with like the best Earthen list during Manila. And I actually will say that I think we came up with like arguably the best Earthen list for this tournament too. Or except for maybe the mirror match because of the altar of Gaia's, we
Mhm.
chose not to run those. But the during Manila, like we spent so much time in Nehemiah, and then we had to go to Iraq, and I was like, guys, we can just play Naeus, and I think Naeus is actually better. Like I kept putting this argument, and they're like, yeah, Naeus is better, but we don't want to play Naeus. Like they were just like, no, we are not playing Naeus. So I'm like looking at Sneakon, I'm just like, thank you so much, thank you for playing Naeus. And then with Manos,
You did the
Malston, and
best, right?
Jason, yeah, I was just like, I hate my life. Like you guys, we have to try to make an Iraq build that works. But there's every player has their own style,
Mhm.
and you have to I guess as a coach, Parallel doesn't have any coaches yet. I'm sure there will be tons more coaches as the game becomes more established, more players come in. Some people don't want to play that. Like I don't want to be in the nitty gritty playing the games, but I love theory crafting and coming up with strategies and coming up with good lists. So there will be probably more people like me that do that. But like for anyone that's interested in that kind of like thinking, like there's certain things that like yes this may on paper is the best, but your player doesn't like that way of playing, so you have to revolve around that a little bit more.
And the truth is like, I mean, this was true for like Hearthstone and other games, and I would think that it holds true with Parallel, but maybe we don't see it quite as much. But sometimes players just specialize in a class or a deck, and they
Yeah.
can pilot it to success even when everybody else is losing with it. And I don't think Parallel, like we've seen that quite as much yet, but that might be true in the future. Like someone might just be insane with Asio, and
Omega.
Shout out Omega.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And I think as coach, your role is to guide them as best as you can. But at the end of the day, the player, is gonna
Yeah.
choose what
Yeah.
they want to choose.
Mhm.
So
Expertise is definitely starting to show, like even within Exile, like Earthen build only got where it was because we had players like Malston on the team that was also grinding. Like I was experimenting one way, he was experimenting the other way, and then you kind of like put these lists together, some of these ideas together as alongside all the other players, and you came up with like some of these ideas that worked really well. Like we didn't discover like Rummaging Researcher and Caretaker being such a good package at first. Those
mhm.
were just cards kind of like being ran, and then as we ran more of it, we're like, because I think some builds had 0 caretakers in our first run throughs, and then as we played more, we're like, wait, Rummaging Researcher is really good. And then why don't we lean on this more? Then we ran the caretakers, because then it's like, okay, well, you can, if these live, you keep drawing, and then lean more towards the allocated provision, stuff like that. So it comes the specialization. If you're in a team, like other teams can definitely attest to this too, like YGG and Devmons and all these squad, even like Lambie when he was coming up with the Infinite Cash deck, like he did that alongside Gonkra and Very Fat Cat. And
Mhm.
it's like certain players find certain pieces, and then the other guy finds the other pieces, and that's how you get the really good
Mhm.
decks.
That's why you
I
want
think you'll
these
get, yeah,
just these large support groups. That's
yeah,
can't drive that home enough. You want
hmm
uh, the wisdom of the crowd.
yeah.
Definitely. Oh, that makes
I want to.
the competitive
Can I
scene
quickly
so
shout out
exciting.
Cobra, by the way,
Uh-huh.
with the Vindicator Rapid Assault Vehicle, for making that
P-Rav,
meta.
P-Rav.
Yeah, because he told us about that card in Exile like way before it became meta, and I'm gonna take the blame. I shot him down like a decent amount of times. I shot him down, and I'm like, that's
Oh,
not it. Like even after the patch, he's like, I was like, I think like combat heuristics will still be pretty good. Like that was my initial thought, and he's like, what if we just run Vindicator? And I'm like, nah, like combat still sounds better. And he's like, okay, yeah, if we had listened to him early enough, we probably would have been like, hey, don't even mention that card to anybody else. And maybe there would have been a tournament. This may have been a tournament that only Exile players were running Vindicator and nobody else was. I'm sure it was. I don't know if it being discovered on Lambie's stream was the thing that set it off and everybody started running it. I don't know if you can attribute that to Lambie, but I feel like it sure played a big part in that card getting noticed. And
Absolutely.
shout out Cobra for being in that stream and doing it, and changing a whole meta deck, man. That's pretty huge. Like not many people have those kind of stories of finding a card that people didn't. And I've done this in Yu-Gi-Oh. I was in Cobra's position in Yu-Gi-Oh where I've told world champion players like play this card, and they're like, no, you're bad. And then someone else ends up like no, or they end up running it, or someone else end up running it, and it changes the whole meta. And I should have known better. I should have listened to Cobra and gave it a shot. But I'm happy that he got his is vindicated the right word? He got his he
Vindicate.
got what
Yeah,
he yeah, he got
absolutely.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
humility, Muka. You got to
Yeah.
listen to the
Yeah.
people more.
Yeah.
Can we
100%.
mention while we're on the topic that Kathy was for me at least kind of the deck of the. I don't think I lost on Kathy. Like she's
Wow.
still
Feel
right
good.
there,
Feel
and
good.
part of that might be from the month where me and Lambie played 2,000 games of Unit Kathy. So like I was in my
Yeah.
element with Unit Kathy specifically.
Actually, that was going to be a question that I was going to ask you. Like, you know, do you just enjoy the gameplay of Marco the most? Like, do you consider yourself an aggro player, or
No,
are
no,
you
I was
just like, it's the best deck and I like to win kind of vibe?
no, I probably like I'm blanking on the name, like mid range,
Mid
right?
range.
Yeah,
Yeah.
mid range decks. That was my thing in Magic. I like to be able to do a little bit of it all. I guess can't decide. Never
Mm-hmm.
prepared. So that's why I like decks like Unit Catherine, where it is
Mm-hmm.
aggro, but it has this like late game, and especially the original version had so much just infinite value, LSC, draw, everything.
Yep.
Old school Scipius, where same thing,
Yeah.
aggro deck, but you have so much
Mm.
late game value. So yeah, I'd say mid range is
How'd
where
you
what I like the most
feel
fun.
about the Alvaros? Because not many people running
They
it. I remember
performed.
when we were
Mhm.
sitting the night before, I also was like, I kept looking at other two drops and suggesting it, and I'm like, I can't believe that we're just going back to Alvaros. Like I was okay with running another two
Mhm.
cost unit because and you'll see this in the tournament if you guys were like watching or just go back and watch matches. A lot of other people's rallying cries were like dudding. Like I don't know if that's the
Mhm.
right word, but like hitting
Yep.
double gunslinger, like just nothing
Yep.
really too big. And I agreed with the two drop. But then when Mano suggested Alvaro, I'm like, really? Like we're just gonna do Alvaro again? There's nothing else. But yeah, how'd you
So
feel?
good.
Yeah.
I mean, it completely destroys the Neve matchup. Like it's already a
Mhm.
bad matchup for them, but now they have no chance. Um, it's really good in the Earthens actually, because every cache with an Alvaro, if they
Mm.
load themselves up on caches, then you play an Alvaro.
Yeah.
Logistics Mastery also pumps
You
its
did win a game
damage to
that was it you that
5.
won a game that way?
I
Yeah,
did, yeah.
right?
He's at
Yeah.
Wow.
4. Drew a supply cache with Alvaro and Logistics on the board. Yeah, they're really great, and I think most people ended up on like pretty much the same Cathy list, but the choice seemed to come down to like Alvaro's or Determined Assault in that slot.
Mhm.
And for me, it's easy. It's Alvaro. Makes your rallying cries better. Never been a huge fan of Determined Assault. Feels like it's kind of a bait a lot of the time to keep in an
Mm.
opening hand because you really want the one into double one turns in Cathy. Gunslinger PSA, it's almost always going to be more preferable to just Determined Assault. Deal three to
Yep.
yourself.
Yeah, the selection of twos hasn't been amazing for the rallying cry, and I think that
Mhm.
you can't discount the really good stats, you know? So
Yeah,
I feel like it
just
was
solid.
already a good card, and
Mhm.
it's super useful in some matchups, so I think it was a really wise decision to throw him in there, and I think you had 3 copies too, you
Oh
went
yeah,
full send.
yeah.
Oh,
I thought
yeah.
about two, but yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. Full send. Because I think the other option for two drop slot is like the new 1/4, but it's a vehicle,
Yeah, the
and
armored support vehicle.
you want to draw
Mhm.
your Vindicator. So I'm not a fan of that one in that
Yeah.
deck. Fine card, but
If
uh,
you suggested that, I would have said no. I already hate enough. There's already too many vehicles in the deck for me. I was
yeah,
telling them to maybe take out a glaive.
Estelle's
That was
hater.
like my
Yeah,
big thing. I was like, take out glaive of Kathy because I was like, I
uh,
hate not drawing Vindicator.
which
It's it's gotta be no snitching, right? That's really propelled Kathy forward even more, right?
yeah,
Because
it's
I
capture.
was wondering
Really, yeah.
if, the list needed to go a little bit more burn heavy to, like, kinda combat the power increase of Earthen, but it seems like you can get away with it, like, by just having the no snitchings
Yeah,
in there.
Earthen is still slow.
Mhm.
I heard somebody describe the deck as like, oh, this deck's sick. You do nothing for 3 turns and then you win. Um, so they are still like everything's still
Yeah.
exploitable, abusable, whatever. And the no snitchings really do that. You snitching their thing. A lot of them, our list like barely even had 2 drops. You have 2 cunning diplomats and a shard,
Yeah.
and then coins to propel yourself to 3. But that's what you're relying on.
That's
So yeah, snitchings are yeah.
Can I ask one? I think this might be one of our last questions, but I really want to ask it. How did that Terraglider into Terramech Shield Titan feel?
Oh,
Like that last one that
Oh
like you
yeah.
needed to hit that, and oh my yeah.
Actually, yeah, I haven't watched all my games yet, but I watched that one, and I can't Mooka. You were saying that I shouldn't go for it. You got to go for it in that spot every
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was just cautious because I was like, I guess from like when I was watching it as a caster, I'm like, I've seen so many players play like kind of conservatively, and you don't want to do like the all or nothing.
Mhm.
But if we were in a practice match, I probably would have done the Terramech Shield Titan play like every time and just been like, I
Yeah.
lose if I don't have this. So I applaud you for
yeah.
it's a dude,
Mhm.
that was a brave decision. Like if that missed, you lost. And like just going for
You were
or at
losing
least
Almost
I think
anyway.
necessarily.
yeah,
Yeah.
you were like yeah. So I
So the
think that was
6 is
worth
just a good hit in general. The
yeah.
worst hit is the prime variant, or not the prime ship, whatever.
Yeah, Citrine Rose.
Yeah, Citrine Rose. But all the other ones are solid. You got a 6/6 defender. You've got the
Yeah.
draw 2 guy. I'm also fine
Mhm.
with that in the shroud. You have the heal and make a 5/5 if you're at higher life. So it's just a good hit. And then if you hit Terramech, it's so hard for shroud to deal with. Like you think, oh, they can find a way to banish it, but they have so little spot removal these days, and they have to use it throughout the
Mhm.
game. So it's and so yeah, I mean, it's still. I think it's always the play for sure. I think it's the game plan versus shroud.
Mhm.
That was really like I mean, in that
Mm.
moment, you won. Like that was the moment
Yeah.
you won. You know what
That
I
was the
mean?
final game, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
Yeah.
think I
Final
Did
think
it start
so.
hitting
play of
you?
the game.
Or were you
Yeah.
just locked in still? Like when you hit the shield titan, were you like, oh, like after
I was
Hugh
happy.
saw he didn't do anything the next turn?
I think I like, did a little head wiggle or something. Yeah. I knew what was going on. I acknowledged it.
You keep your composure though. Like some
Mm,
players, I love having the cams because you can, see what's
mhm.
going on. For the most part, some players are really expressive, but I think you keep your composure pretty well throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
So that's good. Um, yeah, no, that was certainly a highlight of the entire tournament. Was that 20% for the Titan? We absolutely lost our minds. So did chat. So,
Yeah.
uh, yeah.
Chow was good this weekend from what I
Oh,
saw.
chat was the best,
It
Fantastic.
the
was my
absolute
favorite.
best.
It was
Yeah.
my favorite.
They they had such hilarious comments, especially like the Bullbens cam. That
Yeah.
whole saga just like had me dying. Like the whole
Locked
time.
in.
Can,
It was
can
so
we
good.
give a little lore on the Bullbens cam, or should we not?
Sure, yeah, throw it in. You can talk about it real quick.
I'm not sure if Mark's gonna cut this out or not, but so Bullvence's cam was not put in because it was like super grainy and faded. Like it was comical. Like if it was put on there, that would be the only. Like I know Chad was already super focused on the picture, but if it was on there, Bullvence's cam would have just taken over the whole show, and it did not look good. Like it was not professional at all. But just picture Bullvence in a dark room and everything is just pixelated gray. Like that was it. It looked like he was in a room of smoke almost. Oh
Oh
my.
my gosh, incredible. No, look, there was something about I think I had the most fun this tournament. Like they're
Yeah.
just like the games were super exciting, Manos particularly your final and chat was hilarious. It was really wholesome and it's all building to that final world championship, the first one in Vegas and I think we're all incredibly excited. So I
Yeah.
think that we'll wrap up this episode here. Manos, thank you so much for coming on and
My
talking to us
pleasure.
about your experience. Super excited to keep watching you compete. You're an incredible player and personality in this community. You've got a lot of fans. They love the stash power. So keep on keeping on. And thank you again for coming on the show.
Yep. Thank you. You'll be seeing more of me.
This was a 983 Media Productions podcast.